There we go. Start that again.
Well, I haven't started anything yet. So, why don't we go ahead and call it today? Today is May 8th, the May 8th, edition of the Lodge County Animal Welfare Committee. Thank you, Advisory Committee. We called to order. And, first thing we need to do is approve the agenda. Before I get a motion on that, I would like to make a motion that we add to the agenda. Last meeting, we had a discussion. We had some issues with the public comment. I don't know if it would be reasonable to establish, discuss possible committee response to public comment to be added to the agenda. So I think it would be in our interest to add that discussion to today's agenda in new business once we conclude the adoption events that are on here. So can I get a motion to add a discussion of for possible committee response to public comment to today's agenda?
Will it have the time limit?
Yeah.
In 3 minutes?
So what we need to do, this will be a committee response. Well, we need to discuss it. But this will not be public comment. Public comment is at the beginning. This will be committee discussion. The idea being, and we will get to it if we add it to the agenda, the idea being our engagement response from the committee to any public comments that were received earlier in that meeting. So I'd like to have that discussion and figure out how we want to do that and, you know, what kind of policy we want to establish for future meetings. We could add it to this meeting if a motion in that part carries. But, you know, I just want to put a dot on that conversation we had at the last meeting and say, okay, there was an issue. Here's how we're going to resolve it. So there's a motion to have that discussion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of adding that motion to the agenda?
Question.
I'm sorry, this is not public comment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. The motion carries.
A question regarding your statement.
We will get to public comment.
No, this is just to do with your statement of.
Right, well, but it's not public comment. This is committee discussion, you know, right now, so I can't open the floor.
No, what I was wanting to ask is that the discussion would be open to the committee, would also be open to ourselves.
And that will be something that we'll be discussing. So the floor is not open right now for public comment. So the agenda has been approved with that motion added. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from February 14th meeting?
Yep.
Do I have them?
I moved to approve the minutes from the February 14th meeting of the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
All right, now we're moving into the public comment section of the meeting. As established last time, there will be a 3-minute time limit. This will be a citizen-only discussion. Please refrain, committee members, from responding to any questions. Do your best to take note of those questions so that they could possibly be answered by the committee in future. And please, if you have public comments, please try to prioritize the information that you wish to share and convey so that you maximize those 3 minutes. We're going to be using the sand dial here as a visual timer, and I'm also going to be keeping time on an iPhone so that when an alarm goes off at 3 minutes, the committee will no longer listen to further comment. And so please, when you hear the timer or you see the sand run out, please ask your 3 minutes so that we can afford everybody appropriate time. Please stop now. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, so we're recording this meeting. Is the microphone part of the apparatus at the front?
There is a microphone. I'm glad you brought that up. We've set aside there's a chair and a table. If you're comfortable moving up there, you can stand or sit. Hopefully for future meetings, perhaps we can provide a podium or something, so we have an established place. If you're more comfortable where you are and you're not comfortable moving around the room, please feel free to do so. But that's an opportunity to be upfront where everyone on the committee can see you and hear you the best.
So the microphone is part of
There
the,
is a microphone that is
Okay.
part of that apparatus.
Okay.
There isn't. We're all set. Okay, who would like to speak first? All right, for the record, will you please state your name in full? And once that is done, then I will start the timers.
Okay, it's Kathleen Rupert, and I provided you copies of two things I'm gonna be discussing. One is special committees, is at the top, it's a staple pages together, and the other one says from Kathleen Rupert on the other. The first handout, and what I'm here about to talk about is, I have concerns about a proposed $3 million time-limited lease for U.S. state of Florida property that have to be negotiated again in about 25 years. Commissioners seem to feel that this committee endorsed this agreement. In fact, the chair of the commission stated that this would allow free or low-cost vet care. Is this true? On the handout, see letter D, item 4, on the first page, says, surgeries conducted for educational purposes. What does that mean? In other words, this is a lease agreement, one of the drafts. I asked for the most recent, and this is all that I have. This is part of the lease agreement proposed. Knowing the lease will end and have to be renegotiated, what does the current City of Gainesville RTS agreement with UF mean for future negotiations? Won't the county need more money to repair roads due to increased traffic due to the RTS City of Gainesville UF agreement? On page 2 of the draft agreement, letter F, part 3, or III, read this carefully as to some of US requirements. I don't know how many of you have even seen this proposed lease agreement, and the fact that a lot of people think that you've endorsed it. So I have concerns about that. I wanted to hear from you if you really endorse it and you've read through the lease agreements. I've expressed a number of concerns in a letter to the editor, that's the other stapled pages I provided you. It says from Kathleen Rupert. And it did appear in the Alachua Chronicle on April 7th of this year. My concerns include environmental risks, location of site for comfort of the animals, and accessibility of both the employees and the public. Is there no available county property, a renegotiation of the lease? I have quite a few concerns about this, so that's why I'm here, and I want to hear it from you guys that you totally endorsed to the UF property using $3 million of county money, tax money, to lease property, at which time at the end of the lease, you will have to destroy the building as part of the lease agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
The thing, well, its course, it'll be close.
If I may go back to, is it appropriate to ask whether or not visitors would also be available or able to join the discussion if you do choose to go their route?
Let's start your 3 minutes and then ask the question again, and then we will try to answer that question the best we can later on if that is added to the agenda. So you're welcome to go up there or wherever you want to.
I need all the walking I can.
Full name for the record, and then when once you're done with that and you begin your comments, I will begin the 3 minutes.
Thank you. Adele Franson. My attention has been to the condition of many of our stray or unowned cats. And over the years, there has been issues which have been involved animal services or animal resources and care. The one big element that I find is so in need of attention is that of investigation. The years that I have been involved, I have called and asked for investigations to be done. Unfortunately, the documents are sorely in need of proper investigation documentation. For an example, when it was under the auspices of Animal Services of Ed Williams, there was 50 visits made to one resident with boarding condition. And yet not one of the activity cards documented what the actual situation was about. And it took 6 years with Julie Johnson's coming on for a few months before this situation was addressed. Animals suffering were removed, some dead. But the activity cards documentation is crucial. And now I think too, it gives people a good idea on officers that they are valued employees if they're given in-services, if they have lectures come, if they have discussions of how they approach things, because right now, what I've read to the situations I've made known have just not recognizable to the situation that I was aware of. So I do think that it's very, very, very important and essential to have good supervision of the investigators, to have a good job description where they know documentation is crucial to the care of an advantage to the animals and to the public. And most of all, these documentations leave out the advocacy of the animal. So I hope that can be given more time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment at this time? No. Seeing no other public comment, we will move on to old business, beginning with the director announcements.
Okay, great, I will talk about the new shelter. We currently have this listed, or excuse me, it's currently back now with the legal department at the University of Florida. Their lawyers are now going through the lease agreement to see what our legal department added. I think our legal department added, I'll be honest, I didn't read it because I was lost after the first like 10 pages. But anyways, they added a lot of legalese regarding safeguarding and safeguarding, protecting the county, et cetera, et cetera. I will digress for 1 second and just talk about this one comment about surgeries conducted for educational purposes. That is spay-neuter surgeries that we do every day with the UF students, and that's what that education is for. Those are the students at UF that do perform surgeries. So that's the only education. No, we do also amputations, things like that students learn from. So that means in education, students are involved. As far as the new shelter goes, we did just close on the RFPs for the architect and engineering. That is one request for proposal that recently closed, as well as the construction manager RFP also closed. And so what happens from there is none of the committee members are allowed to talk to each other. Nobody can have any contact with each other prior to a public meeting. And so those public meetings, I apologize, I'll have to look, I believe they're June 4th and 6th. We will have public discussion with the other evaluation committee members, as well as the public is welcome to join. And that is to decide on an architect who will be the lead architect for the design, as well as the planning of the new shelter, and then the construction manager who will oversee the entire project, working with the architect. They will work with UF's staff as well. But we have made clear that the architect of our choosing will be the one in charge of the actual design and planning of the facility. If the lease fell off the cliff tomorrow, we are still getting a new shelter somehow, some way. And so this architect and this construction manager, no matter where the site was located, would be the team leading the design and build. So we're excited about that. I'm excited to at least get design started and the cool things that are out there, all the different building types now, and there's been so much radical change in sheltering. So I'm very excited to get to interview them all and have a discussion about it. So those are our next steps as far as the new shelter goes, but I don't have any update per se on the lease other than now it's with their legal team. So regardless, we are still going forward with getting our team in place that we want to do the design and the building of the new facility, no matter where it ends up. So that is it on the new shelter that I have so far.
Did you get a lot of responses to the RFP? A lot of submittals?
We did, so, and I can't, you're gonna have to forgive me off the top of my head, I can't remember which was which, but we got 5 for one and 7 for the other. So, it was a lot of really good proposals. And, so I'm excited to see how the public, meeting happens and how that goes, because it was really cool to see how much effort and work all of them on the construction side and the architect side really put their, I want to say almost passion into it for the project and what they would like to see us build and design. So it was very cool.
And then, just another question has nothing to do with what architects should do or no direction to
Right.
any of the applicants, but just in general, and because we have a lot of excerpts here, what are some newer municipal shelters, or not even municipal, newer shelters across the country that are kind of, the model or cutting edge?
God, there's so much new cutting edge stuff. Everything is, I think now more than ever, at least the shelters, and I'd like Dr. Levy to chime in because she goes all over this country all the time, even she goes to other countries, but I think some of the biggest changes I've noticed in sheltering over the years are welcoming volunteer space, employee space, animal space, and public space, as well as really creating good environments for the animals so they're less stressed. Things so that they're not looking at each other through chain link or directly across from each other, so they're getting that, anxiety. Lake County just built a shelter a couple years ago. Theirs even has composite fencing on the outside, which is really nice. So the dogs have AstroTurf for their outside area with composite fencing. So they're not looking at any other animals. That's just one I can think of real quick. Acoustics have been a huge change, I think, in animal sheltering, where you're not driving by and hearing dogs bark. Outdoor cat space, so cats can go in and out as they want to. They can climb. They have spaces to climb inside and out. The cat spaces, I think, have been one of the more dramatic changes, I would say, in shelters, as well as really making sure that the housing for cats is considered just as much as dogs. And again, really having space, it's really become a thing now where also the staff, the volunteers, and the people that are there every day have a chance to get a break in a quiet space as well, away from their work environment. That involves, I would say, nature as well. So it's indoor out space for staff as well, and volunteer training. And, San Diego Humane does a great job of
San Diego, is that you said?
San Diego Humane does a great job of, like, this is just a programming element, but that's part of that was built into the shelter, is when people get citations, they have a chance to go to, I don't know what you want to call it, citation school, to get that citation taken care of and have to get some education on how they need to treat their pets. So I think just really incorporating more spaces that really make sense, are more ergonomic, are much more energy efficient. And much more, like I said, you're not hearing thousands of dogs bark at you all at once, I think is really critical.
And Lake County and then San Diego Humane is choosing.
San Diego's been there forever and they have more money than any
Yeah.
other organization in the universe, so.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. So I think, but like I visited Pima, Arizona. That was a new shelter in Jacksonville Humane. I know it's a great shelter. Miami was built not that long ago. I know that has some challenges, but it's beautiful. Marion County is just embarking on building theirs. And Orange County is building probably the largest shelter I've seen in a long time that's gonna be coming down the pipe. That's gonna be one of the most, not only expensive, but one of the largest shelters, but it also their intake is massive. I think it's 30,000 animals a year, so. But I think, when I saw the specs on it, it's gonna cost like $136 million they're putting into it, so.
Because they had asked, for example, instead of, newer shelters across the country.
Right. And Dr. Levy can add on.
Yeah, I think that's a good description. I think when I think about, we're building a shelter for at least 30 years, hopefully longer.
Right,
It's kind of a once in a lifetime thing that happens. And so we need to think about not just what's happening in shelters now, but also 30 years from now, what does the field gonna look like? So one thing that's I think important is to build in flexibility so you can change the use of the space
right,
over time as needed, and that might be just having more of a pod structure so that you can, do a virus outbreak, you got a pod with dogs, or a hoarding case where all the cats get along, you can have a pod, put them in. And so not lock us into the statistical dynamics that we're having right now, but to plan for better or worse. And also, I would think the way things are kind of developing, I think with Melissa and other groups is we have the urban centers that are doing pretty well with their animal welfare, but then they're all surrounded, like we are, by these rural communities that have virtually no veterinary access and really rudimentary animal control. And so this hub and spoke system is kind of developing organically, which is nice. And so we would obviously be probably a center to support other places, and that, it's not necessarily the county's job to do that, but to be thinking in that way as we plan our collective animal welfare response to this community. The indoor outdoor cat thing, like, I'm gonna push pretty hard on that, 'cause that's one of my priorities is to have runs for cats.
Right.
Rather than cages, and so they can, and also allows you to walk in and meet the cat, and rather than haul them out of a cage.
Right.
They'll be so much healthier and happier that way and get adopted faster.
Yeah, some of those little ones that lost in there, the clusters.
Yep.
yeah, Austin. Who else just built one? Did San Antonio, I think, just built one too.
They've got a
San
newish
Antonio,
one,
it's
yeah,
newish.
yeah. And for, anyone go to Expo?
I am,
San Antonio.
yeah.
There's-
You're going to Best Friends, Chelsea's going to Best Friends. No.
I'm not going to anything.
I thought you were speaking at this friend. Okay.
I applied to see.
Okay.
But I think that, and that's nice too, I can't listen to it, but at Expo, because the confidentiality thing, you can't, since we have not spoken publicly, we can't do anything, but at Expo, I know they are doing a shelter, best practice shelter, new shelter, it's called architecture, how to build a new shelter. They're doing that this year at Expo, so, which will be great. I can look at it later. You just can't look at it next week. You're looking there. So, but there's all kinds of things that have been, it's amazing.
Why can't you listen?
Because the RFP closed and we haven't had the public hearing on the submissions that we received for the architect and the construction manager.
So she can't be in the same room with them.
Right,
Oh, it's not.
right.
Yeah. Okay, and there's,
I get it.
And they're speaking, so I can't, nope,
Well,
yeah,
I asked because, in all things, I like to have examples.
Right.
And what to expect.
Right.
Especially for the public, so what to expect as far as, costs. A
right,
lot more than I think the public realizes.
yeah,
And then, I think it's great to have an example pulled up, so, for
yeah,
example.
yeah. I know Miami built was 75,000 square feet and they paid 15 million, but that was in 2015.
Yeah, and that's probably twice that now.
At
right?
least. But the scary thing is like they did a presentation, I don't know, about a week ago. And our population is gonna go up by 30% in the next decade.
Mhm.
That's scary.
It's Alachua County is gonna be.
It's,
yeah.
yeah, so. That's a lot of planning. I mean, yeah, and pretty much they say every household has a pet. That's a lot of more animals to be adding to the mix, so. As it currently sits, we were asking for 200 kennels, which is double what we have now. I don't know that growing past that is ever gonna be an answer, right? Because you can build as many kennels as you want, you will always fill them up. It does not matter how many you build. We could put 1,000 kennels out there in a kennel and we would have them full tomorrow. So it really is, I think, a mix of getting more residents on board that we're not your first resort or your last resort. It's that same old adage, you know?
Did you?
Yep.
All right, moving on to committee announcements. This is something that we had to table, we decided to table last meeting, as far as, the interest of time and getting to some other things, so, I'm gonna quickly review last year's work plan and list of accomplishments. There should be a copy of that in the packet that Sarah provided everybody. Responsibilities and duties, we kind of covered that, you know, we definitely covered that last time as far as, hey, here's who we are, here's what we've been, you know, mandated or requested to do as a committee by the county. So, you know, I want to skip over that. But the prior list accomplishments, everybody can kind of see the list there of what was done, what we recorded, haven't accomplished. And then our goals for the upcoming year, which we're well into. You know, brainstorm and advise and planning new shelter. I think we've been doing that. We continue to do that. And brainstorm and advise on updating current shelter, play yards and facilities. I know we've had discussions about that and I think we have accomplished that. There's been, I think we've actually covered a lot more ground, as far as that goes. And I see heads shaking. So, I don't know if anybody wants to, you know, kind of spitball some of those things that we've done or some of the things maybe we would like to do before the year is out. And then, you know, perhaps we can ask Sarah to start prepping this report for this year's report. So that maybe we can take a look at that, at the next meeting, and see, hey, here's what we've done so far. And what have we maybe left out?
We can certainly look at the minutes too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and really pull from the minutes. So some of the motions that you've all made, I think is important too, because that guided a lot of what we do and how our agenda is even today.
Yeah, I definitely think we're moving things along.
Right.
Is there any discussion on that, or is everybody kind of good with what they see? And is there anything that anybody feels like, you know, we could be doing this better? There's something more here that we could be doing as far as our mission to support animal resources. Because looking over last year's plan, I kind of feel like this committee's working in the right direction.
I just think we should always be supporting what ACAR needs. The ACAR, this is built up of. We're people who are actually involved in working with you professionally for a lot of these people, so. When you need help with something, we wanna know how can we.
It's
do
coming
that.
in new business.
Okay.
And
I feel like that's what we're doing.
And I was thinking on my way to the meeting today that I think it's important to note to put in the minutes that, look, everybody here is a volunteer.
Right.
Everybody here has volunteered their time to come in and try to make things better for the animals that don't necessarily have homes here in Alachua County. You know, so, and I just think that's important to have these minutes there.
One thing that long ago, when we had a big Maddie's grant that we got in about 2002, and that started the collaboration that brought all the groups together for the first time. The grant required that we have annual reporting from all of the organizations, and it really helped us understand the dynamics in our community. In addition to the dynamics in the shelter. Obviously, there's a lot of parts. There's TNR, there's Spay Neuter, there's the Humane Society. And so one thing we could do maybe to get back to that, which might actually help inform some shelter needs going forward, is to see if we can rally up all the groups again to share their data once a year and we can compile it all and to see. Are we getting better, are we getting worse? What are the gaps that people are mentioning? It's not hard, okay, we have to be willing to like throw it into either a shared sheet or. Animals come up, we have a coalition, but it's not very active right now. Yes, to me, ACAR is in it, and I think makes sense too. Okay, but the rest of you is going on, so that would be, if there was interest in knowing kind of bigger picture.
Right.
Animal movement care in the community, I could lead that, but I would really want to, your all help to go out and start rescue groups and stuff to get them on board with it.
That could be a goal for the upcoming year is engage all the pet welfare organizations.
That's true for next year. Okay. That's a good idea.
Can you provide a list of like your current partners
Yes,
to the like?
Yeah.
To the committee and.
yeah, I mean, we work with a ton of rescues. I mean, Sarah's got a huge list of rescues we reach out to regularly. There's been a couple, I'm not gonna lie, that we got some concerns with. That I don't know that I'll get the data, but I mean, you know, there's a huge number of partners we work with, like Humane is like easy breezy, you know, it's like. The regularly named, how do I say it, the regularly named rescues are the rescues that are well known. Not just locally, but kind of more regionally. You know, they're very data driven themselves, and so they're very willing to, I think, share information. But I think I have a few that probably wouldn't. I can explain that a little more. There's a rescue that I actually had to talk to Deputy Kuhn about. There is a local rescue that decided to bring in a bunch of dogs, almost 100 dogs from California with no health certs, no rabies vaccines, no, yes, they would be huskies. You know which one.
I do.
Yes, and so, like I said, and then so I sent an officer out there to go get that information, of course, they don't have it. I then called California because I knew what the rescue was that gave them the dogs. So I called my buddies over in California and said, guess what? Where's the health certs? You know, and she about flipped out, she about died, that, well, we didn't get health certs from the other transporters that brought dogs to, and I'm like, you know, that's the federal government, that's not the state government, that's the federal government. Nice going. So anyways, you know, so those types of rescues, I don't feel we are gonna get accurate information from. So that's what I'm saying is some of these locally, obviously Stacy knows.
Small groups that don't.
Yeah.
And we collect data nationally and statewide. We'll talk about later, but that's why we only collect it from shelters, because the rescues, a lot of them are.
Right,
I think to Melissa's question, and I may be wrong here, is that the list of rescues that you have, is that something the staff can email to committee members?
yeah,
Or would
I
it
put
be,
it on a PowerPoint
Oh.
slide on the logo, so.
or I was gonna say, or would it be better for staff to make contact with those rescues to get them involved? Or is staff requesting that the committee reach out to these folks?
Oh, no, we can, because we talk to them all the time to pull animals.
I'm just-
Information, the list, be
Yeah.
informational, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it was one for information, but two, if there may be someone on the list that maybe one of us has a.
Oh, that'd be
a
great.
Relationship with,
Sure.
where we can be like, hey.
Yeah,
there also might be people in our own there.
that's
Oh, yeah,
fair,
that-
100%.
Yes.
Fair. Yeah, that'd be great. No, I'll send you the list and you guys send me.
So I work for a funder, and I mean, we can put things in our grant agreements that require reporting, and not only do we do that, we require, quarterly reports to the board, to our board. So if that is something, and we do find them, one of the organizations that have boards and are
Right,
very functional and
Right.
data driven and.
not out of their house.
Right, so, so I don't know how big of a help that would be, but if there is something in the funding structure,
That's definitely help.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
we
a
can
huge help.
incorporate that, so please let me know.
Okay.
Like, if we might could require reporting, so the. That'd
That'd be great to shelter animals count, like, if we
Yeah,
even
that's
required
good.
that. If we can even just require them to be in the coalition, then that's automatic. And then anybody can see that data, anybody from the public, anybody anywhere from any group can see that data. That would be good. Require them to report shelter animals count.
Yeah, well, they have to opt into transparency. which
Correct.
A lot, it's
I know, that's the problem.
not hard. But
We have to make them opt into for transparency too.
Opt-in for transparency in the system. What do you mean?
For SAC, yeah, we'd have to look, the SAC is also changing what
Oh.
I'm not quite sure what their coalitions are doing.
Gotcha.
But anyway, I think we could start with.
We could even make a coalition of our own and then they can just add into our coalition. We could do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Shelter animals
we
count
have-
coalition.
That's really what it is.
Yeah.
It's from the old days when we had to, you know,
Yeah.
had to do all this submission, so it's already there and I can add you as an administrator.
Okay.
Then we can just start getting people
To opt in for that.
yeah,
Okay, and then I can send out a link to the committee so they can see it.
yeah, right.
Okay,
Right, good.
One other thought on that topic about how we can support the shelter as the community grows. Is what we're hearing is housing is a huge issue.
Yep.
Relinquishment,
yep,
and it seems like that needs a task force.
it does.
And I don't know if it's us, but maybe our committee could recommend to the commission that a task force be formed of some kind to like see what can be done for more pet-friendly housing. That will just get worse if there's more parking buildings.
It is. They're building apartment buildings by the thousands and they're not putting breed restrictions anymore because they're putting size restrictions because that law was signed. So,
So there's a coalition of care, that's, it's kind of like what, Maddie's, all the organizations work together, and so, finding more funds, Grace is, operation for, the co-housing operation, the animals there,
okay,
so, I mean, if there needs to be animal presence on the coalition of care. that's
That'd be
probably
great.
Where it needs to go.
okay,
I know Humane's already been thinking about these things, so
Yeah.
there's already people's thoughts, but if, maybe there needs to be presence of the coalition. care.
yeah, and more of like an actual group, so they understand that it's not just like one person. You know, saying, hey, we need more pet friendly housing, like there's,
Well, they can be authorized by
yeah,
multiple organizations,
Okay.
that's the speaking person.
gotcha,
You know, the point person,
okay,
or even maybe if a member from this group maybe wants to be part of it.
right, that'd be great.
Now, are these restrictions by the property owner or is this a county restriction on the?
It's
Oh.
property owners.
Landlords.
What has changed in recent years is that a lot more properties are owned by out-of-state, big multi-state organizations, so the protocol, the policy being made way up high in some business, has nothing to do with local needs. And there are people working on trying to break into that and get some more awareness by people making those decisions about what the impact is. But what it means is, it used to be, we could talk to the local property owners, the apartment owners, and we could negotiate and help them make it a success. Now those people have no authority. And so they're taking their marching orders from out of state. But there are numerous examples of communities that have decided that, oh, if there's gonna be there's always deals when there's development, like they pay for extra roads or whatever, and there's tax incentives for development, is to attach requirements to development for like, your housing has to be pet friendly or myriad other ways that communities can actually take some action.
But I think we should probably talk to our county housing, you know, and talk to them about that as well as, so that can go to the commission. Or, you know, maybe we ask the commission as a group, as a committee, to, when they're reviewing documents, to set aside so much as pet friendly housing before the county agrees to developers, you know what I mean, in the city of Gainesville.
A few years ago, when all the big companies started coming in buying the apartment complex, we saw a lot of people that were perfectly fine having their pets and but the new owners were like, no, new rules.
Right.
And they had to go.
Because it's all liability in the bottom line.
But there is no way of,
Somebody decided that this size dog or this breed dog or, you know, whatever is specifically written, you know, so you're talking to stakeholders, but
So I also serve on the planning commission and some other things for the county.
that would be a great place.
So,
Yeah,
and I advocate for things, so on the city side, so, this is something that's very, very good, very interesting, so,
okay,
I personally would think for, but if, I won't mention the group, but I'm gonna, if, this, I mean, that could be a, since we're talking about the work plan,
Yep.
review, just regulations in the county that might not be directly related to any of the families.
Right.
well, it does directly impact it.
Well, yeah, but people don't make that connection, you know? you know?
Right. So is that something you're willing to bring up to?
Approving development and, you know, side restrictions.
Right.
This, yeah.
Are you willing to bring it up to the planning commission then?
Mhm.
You don't mind? That'd be amazing.
I think that's exactly what this committee is,
Right,
the whole intent of this committee.
right.
So, I mean, going back to I mean, goals for the upcoming year is, to examine, county
Housing
policies.
Yeah.
that-
regarding housing,
Absolutely.
Housing, but I mean, other things too.
yeah,
If we don't even have, I mean, if we don't have time to finish it before this year's out, at least get started.
And it'd be ongoing for next year.
Yeah.
You could, some community, and I'm not really gonna have these, we'd have to find them, but we're not treading the ground here, other
Yeah.
communities are ahead of us. It's to identify the communities that have made progress, but it seems like also we're gonna have to convince people there is a problem, so that means kind of some kind of survey of pet friendly housing and or, you know, survey of people that are, you know, why are they bringing you in?
Right.
And see if we can get some evidence
right.
around this to see what the need is and then work from.
Well, I mean, I can tell you just from, and this is, I don't have a survey, I have nothing, I can tell you just from standing up at the front desk the last couple weeks. People are graduating. I'm moving, can't take the dog.
Mhm.
Like literally, that is every answer. It's just, we're moving, we're graduating, we're done with UF, we're moving. And I'm just like, you know, so it's been a challenge each graduation year, each summer, not just with, you know, one school, but I mean, all the schools. It doesn't matter. It could be a family who has kids in elementary school and they decide to take a job in Texas and they're just like, oh, don't want to take the dog. So I mean, it's kind of crazy to me. But maybe there is some other educational materials we could build that we could get out to the public as well, like kind of doing social media campaigns and stuff about moving, here's why you're taking your pet, you know? Or, you know, keeping pets and families together, of course, is always first in mind, but I mean, it's really the people that they're moving today. They knew they were moving for the last 6 months. They have not reached out to anybody else to take their pet, and they just decided today that today's the day they're moving, so they're gonna drive by the shelter on their way out in their U-Hauls. I mean, it's crazy. So I think that would be, if there's some education we could do around that, I think that would be helpful as well.
So, yeah, and related, and it's kind of a process, but way back long ago when I was volunteering at adoptions every weekend, and back before all these real estate investment corporations came in about property apartments.
Right,
There was actually a list of apartments and what
Right.
the regulation was.
okay,
So, I mean, again, we're connecting with.
that might be a good thing to
Adopting
get up again,
organizations, to make
yeah,
sure that they're aware when they're adopting out of what,
pet friendly housing,
what,
yeah,
to be part of the ongoing.
that would be very helpful.
Alright. So we expect people to loans.
Yeah.
So we aren't gonna check.
Of course, but information
Right,
on everyone's adoption application, what is the regulation, you know, the policy?
Yes.
Yeah,
But,
you may definitely would, but some of the others may not.
yeah, I mean, I think they're probably. We do ask if they're allowed to have pets
Mhm.
and we expect them to be honest, we don't.
No, I wouldn't put that anyway, I wouldn't put that anyway.
And we don't, there's just, yeah, no, we took our 4-page adoption application and made it 1 page. You know, just because people were pretty offended by our adoption application, and I can't say I blame them. It was really, it was like we were investigating everybody that adopted instead of just trusting people to be defined and, you know, so that wasn't good. But, okay, like that.
And then, I think I brought this up before, I'm going to a different topic if that's okay. For the public as well as, but for me, there are aspects, there's not just the adoption aspect of ACAR. I mean, there's also, you know, codes and everything too. So, if we had like an educational component meeting for, you know, like a 5-minute presentation on, you know, different parts of ACAR, I think, would be fantastic.
I think to help, I could send you the codes and then the Florida state codes, at least for the code section of it.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think-
pretty familiar, I read
Okay.
them all the time, but I mean,
Yeah.
as far as like, as, and the public's here and it's public, I mean, like,
What kind of education?
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm missing it.
like, so I think people think of ACAR as where you take your dog when you want one, or where you go adopt a dog, or cat, and so, but there's other things that you do, so it'd be nice to get that information out.
Okay,
And this might be one way to do it, is educating us,
okay,
so that we can educate others, and also this is a public forum, publicly.
right,
Recorded, there, it's a public heater, so, for example, I know that, talking with Julie about, that on the, animal officers now, on their trucks, they have leashes and sometimes food and repair fences and things like that. That's not known by the public,
got it,
but if we can have like some, you know, every once in a while, and if we have a packed agenda, that not be a part of it, but you know, like a 5-minute review, okay, here's code, this is what animal officers, this is what they do, these are, you know. this is
Right.
that, yeah.
okay,
It's one thing I try to do, like on Gansel working out sometimes, is actually clarify what's actually happening in an educational way, so. I think we're kind of. That's our role too, so.
Maybe we could submit if we have questions,
Mhm.
so
that'd be helpful, so I know who, in case it's another staff member that would be better to drive that. That'd be great, Yeah, just send it to me.
Submit a couple
Yeah.
that we'd be interested in hearing more
Yes.
about.
okay,
And I think that, you know, I think it kind of goes into, I mean, I think that's still a realm of accomplishment and so on.
I agree.
And now that we're gonna be recording everything soon and it can be researched and whatnot, anybody has access to go back and look at that if they're unfamiliar.
And then also an accomplishment, would be engaging with the public too, because we do that.
We're working. on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, even it's already done, you hear and so on, and so I think that should be on the list as well.
I agree.
Yep. Any more discussion on the work plan?
We definitely need to talk about other things.
Yeah.
Out there because we run into that with us too, like we have all these little different things, like we have an FDLE rooms and we can have like, you know, we have.
Right.
Third options, but we forget to talk about all these great things. too,
Right.
And so. You know, like, I stay off against the.
Yeah.
I have to, but
Right.
I, you know, like in other forums, I will say, no, that's not what's happening, you know, like.
Right,
So she's right, you know, but I didn't know you guys had all those things on the mail services trucks now, I think that's great,
Yeah.
so. Maybe just like drop some nuggets at us.
right, okay, that's fair.
I like on the private side, like veterinary medicine, I do see a lot of negative comments that
Oh,
I
yeah.
kind of have to field. It's like we have our own Gainesville word of mouth, like where I'm at, you know, like it's just a lot of negativity.
Yeah.
People, because we're open 7 days a week.
Right.
We get, you know, Sundays and Mondays,
Right.
people can't get a hold of you guys, you know.
Right.
We have, you know, people in our lobby.
Right.
And it's, you know, there was a dog last week that was, you know, found and then released again, or, you know, because there was no room. And it's just, people are just,
Finally, on.
yeah, negativity, so like. Positive thing, why we can't just, like you said, if there's 1,000 kennels, we're gonna fill them.
Right,
Like, why can't we?
We get more calls tomorrow to come get new dogs
Okay.
after they're full.
Or like I was in the conversation, they did not know who it was or anything about allowing someone out of the county to use their address to
Yes.
their cat.
Yes,
So, I
and it was
mean,
one of our volunteers that posted that.
No, this was something,
Oh.
something totally different.
One of our volunteers did post that on a public, on word of mouth, that if you need to get your cat fixed, or wanna get your cat, yeah, you wanna get your cat fixed, just call ACAR. They always have room for cats, even if you're out of county, just tell them, give them a Gainesville address.
Yeah, so, but yeah, so if there was 1,000 kennels, they would fill up with all sorts of, okay, yeah, outside the counties.
We ready to move on? Moving on to new business center. My pleasure to introduce Dr. Julie Lee with the University of Florida, a new committee member. Yes, some of you know Dr. Lee.
Levy.
Levy. Well, obviously, this is my,
Levy, yeah.
you know, so welcome and thank you for being here. I don't know if it'd be appropriate if you just want to tell something to our meeting for the first time, just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm a faculty member at UF. I came in '97. Been here a long time, and I started out doing internal medicine, specialty work in the hospital, and then in 2008, we got a big grant from Maddie's Fund to start shelf medicine. Still do. But for history, since there aren't very many people who were around when our countywide animal coalition came to be, in 2000, Randy Caligiuri was a veterinarian who worked with bats at Luby. So we knew nothing about animal sheltering, but they closed the vet position there, and they opened a director position at EMAS. And he applied for it and got it. And what was very interesting is having someone with no clue about animal welfare and sheltering, walking into the shelter at that time, which took in many thousands, euthanized many thousands of animals. Going, this is crazy, I can't believe this is happening in my community. So he made a point to go around and meet all the stakeholders and then pull us together. And at that time, Maddie's Fund was funding these big multi-million-dollar leagues. And he had his eyes set on that. The two that had been funded, one was the state of Utah, the other one was Lodi, California. You know, Lodi, it's like agricultural, tiny little place. So we got together and submitted a grant to Maddie's Fund, and we patterned it like Utah. And Rich Evans, you know, since we met with him, he said, maybe you should rethink this, and you're more like Lodi. So we did go back, and I have to say, Randy is the reason for all of the success here. He's a fiery Italian. We also spent a lot of long phone calls listening to his complaints, but he, I like to remind everybody that he got us where we are today. And so we got the grant, and it forced everyone in the community was invited to be part of it, but you had to submit data, and you had to be motivated to save more animals. That was the two things. So most of the groups didn't want to be either saving more animals or reporting their data. So the ones that came to by was APAS, UF, Operation Catnip, Gainesville Pet Rescue at the time, and the Humane Society, and Lori, Puppy Hill. There were a couple other rescue groups that came forward, but
Hales Angels, maybe?
Hales Angels, yep. And it was hard. There was, the money didn't go to No More Pets that submitted the grant because we were new. It went to the Humane Society, which wasn't that interested at the time in the old facility. And so a lot of hard feelings, and a couple directors lost their jobs as a result of that. But I do remember sitting around a table like this, Rich Avanzino on a phone, and everybody wanting him to take their side in the fight, and Rich saying, I think we need to talk about an exit strategy. Everybody like stopped. And I have to give credit, they sent the directors to mediation. All of the groups had to decide whether they were going to play nice and do the work or continue to hit each other's throats, and they rallied and they finished this incredible many-year project. It ended up being like $4 or $5 million. And it was just like really amazing. We were trendsetters at the time. The only other person I know that is still in it is Lori from the OG. I'd like to, everyone's doing this great work independently, but I think if we pull back together now that we're post pivot, that we could be even stronger.
I I think it needs to come from someone other than the Humane Society. The Humane Society doesn't need to be in charge. And I think it would go better in the community if there was somebody else that was leading that.
Well, I think we can
Because we
start
did
with the
try it,
data
yeah.
sharing and just see
Yeah.
like how much people are kind of
Because you were at,
wanna cooperate.
yeah,
I mean,
because
I
we
just
pulled
think
together.
that-
We pulled together a meeting when I first started. Chelsea helped lead it and get everybody together, all the groups together to talk about what works, what doesn't, when showed up? You? Chelsea was the only one that showed up. I think we had one on the phone.
Yeah, I don't even remember now.
I know.
It wasn't successful, so I just checked it out, but. Yeah, so I think in previous years with previous directors and staff of the Humane Society, I feel like there was a little bit of a feeling in the community that maybe we felt like we were in charge and whatnot, and that's not what I want. I just want to save animals, I want to work together, and so I think if we get that coalition back together, which I would absolutely love to do.
Yeah.
I just don't think that I don't think it can maybe a neutral party.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, we'll start with the
data.
for data, which means
Yeah.
we do data at UF, so we can take the lead on that and then like depend on all of you to reach
Right.
out to your friends.
And then, I'll work with those people.
Yeah,
And,
right.
you know, I get along with everybody,
Right.
there's no hard feelings personally, but I think if Humane Society were to say, hey, this is what we're gonna do,
It always comes off as if they're taking charge.
yeah.
So one of the big motivators for cooperation with that process is money.
Yeah.
it was the motivation.
Yeah.
and,
That's true.
We don't have that anymore,
Yeah.
but so that's why I don't wanna make more work for them. I
Right.
don't necessarily think there needs to be even more meetings, you know, because we're too busy
Yeah.
and.
Right.
If we can start with just
Collecting data.
virtual work.
Yeah.
That's benefits everybody, it does benefit everybody if there's so many grants and you can show that you're a part of the collaboration
Right.
and you have
Yeah.
data.
Okay.
I don't wanna make, like, we're all too busy to make work, so.
I also think the coalition needs to be more than just animal, like we need
Yeah.
to incorporate more community, like Grace and.
Right.
You know, like the VA and because there's so many people that have animals that still need that help and that, so.
Yeah,
like,
peaceful
there could
paths.
be- Yes,
Yeah.
there could be other components to the coalition and don't.
Definitely sounds like something to add to our work.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because once, like, then you need a person, we hired Jeanette to be, she was, the reason Jeanette's involved in animal
Yeah.
welfare is we hired her to be our
Yeah.
administrator for the grant. And once you start talking about, okay, lots of stakeholders in that part.
I know, but
Yeah, Jeanette would love to see that coalition come back together. So if Wagner can be an incentivizer, yeah, we can probably do that.
Thank you very much. Moving on to facility updates.
Staffing, so here's some good news, we have hired a new person, Faye, my field services supervisor, who's currently in charge of all of the animal control officers and investigators, has taken a job in Dallas, Texas. So she is leaving and moving in 2 weeks. Yeah, so losing her is rough, but I've known about it for about a year. So her husband's company is based in Dallas and the CEO of that company has always wanted them to move. And so they gave them basically a year to either figure that out or you're not gonna be here. So anyway, so she is going. However, we were very successful. I don't know how this happened. We got a unicorn somehow. But we have hired a field services supervisor. He is starting officially on May 20th. He is from Colorado. He is a veteran. He is been in animal welfare for about 7.5 years. As well, and he was a field services supervisor. Field training officer supervisor in Durango, Colorado, most recently for the past 5 years. So he was also in Lubbock, Texas. I talked to Deputy Kuhn. He is certified in large animal, swiftwater rescue, wildfire rescue, and he is also a former Army combat medic and can place chest tubes. So if anything happens in the field, we got a guy. So I'm very excited because he is going to be intensively what do I wanna say, training a lot of our officers and policies and procedures and the way that things are done and reporting and things like that. So I'm excited to see the types of things that he brings to the table, because Faye was amazing at organizing the crew completely, because any of you that know ACAR know that it was a hoarded mess when we all walked in. So it's been amazing to get that going. So I think it's gonna be a compliment to the work Faye's already done. Now this, our shelter supervisor position closes on Friday. We finally have a couple of candidates that seem positive. We will see that with a lot of trepidation, in some of these, because some of the applicants that we've been getting have seen amazing on paper, and then unfortunately, there's nothing behind that piece of paper, so, but I'm hopeful. I am very hopeful. Mike, I'm sorry, Mike has decided that it is too much for him. So he is gonna stay with us, he's not leaving, he's just going to go back to medical, which is where he was before, so he is staying with our organization.
That's great.
Yeah, so, our new rescue coordinator started a month ago, Sarah?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Seems like longer, because we kept waiting. But he is doing great. He's been working closely with Sarah and really trying to drive the direction of rescue and our behavior and making good notes on the animals that we have in our shelter, so that we're all understanding and making good decisions on, adoptability and what type of family they should go to, and, kind of looking out for their quirks, so that's been really good. The play yards, May 27th is when our shades are coming. So we're very excited. Just in time.
Yeah.
Of course, people have been already complaining to me and calling me that it's not in time enough because, oh my God, we hit 85, everything's gonna die. It's like, we're fine. The animals are fine. So, but May 27th is when the shades will be here, and then right directly behind it, the AstroTurf is getting laid in. And I'm more excited about that because, oh God, that sand is, the sand and the dirt and the holes and the liability of people walking in the yard or little kids and then falling into the holes that the dogs dug is just, I'm like, please. So I can't wait. We're doing all 7 yards. Right behind that, we are getting new guillotines for all of the kennels. And we are starting to go to look at bidding for recoding all of our kennels. Because even if we leave, again, even with a new shelter, if we leave, we needed to put a lot of TLC into the facility we have, because it is our goal to keep that as a facility for emergencies. Should we have a large scale hoarding, a large scale outbreak, large scale. So it is our goal to try and keep that as an emergency shelter. That terrifies me at the same time because I've seen a lot of shelters have an emergency backup and they fill it up with stray animals instead of using it what it was intended for. So anyways, but that is the goal, is at least to have an emergency type situation or a disaster where, people can't get to one of the pet friendly shelters. We've got some options for people.
Hurricane evacuations.
Yes, yeah. So to kind of multi-purpose that and repurpose that facility, so.
Do you have a new phosphor coordinator now?
No, we had a repost, the person Sarah was going to hire, went into the wind and stopped responding to her. So, so we're starting from scratch again for foster.
I know that's gonna be a big deal with especially this 6.4 kitten season.
Oh, yes. But I actually have good news on that.
Good.
The statewide shelter, that's you, Dr. Okay.
So attached to your handout are sections from our, same thing. We every year try to contact all the shelters in the state that we know about and get their shelter data. Just so you know, there's a state statute that requires that they disclose data in Sacramento. But not all shelters care. So we work really hard to even know where the shelters are and get a contact list, because there isn't one provided by the state. And so I have a team that works on this many months a year. And to the point that like there's small rural shelters that don't have a computer, don't really even keep records. Except maybe they're used to people registering in Asia or whatever, but we will send our team out to these little shelters, you know, cards or whatever they. And we're actually like fingers crossed, maybe gonna get data from. Animal Control West Florida, which for-profit clinic that thinks they statute is apply for them, but we might get it this year. So what we've done is, welcome to read this, I don't really sure, but there's some graphs that just show, you know, on page, 3 of 7 is how our counties are doing. So countywide, we take all of the shelters in the county and roll them up into a total amount. So we can look at the intake per 1,000 residents and the euthanasia per 1,000 residents. I think that's a much more balanced statistic than same rates or line reduced rate. Because those 90% goals completely depend on what's coming in. And as shelters get better and they're only taking in the hard animals, their save rates are gonna go down, and that's actually a mark of success. But, you know, so you can see this, and one thing that is easy to see is that the rural counties take in a lot more animals per capita than the urban. And this is partly why they're struggle so much, and some of these shelters have like one guy is animal control and the shelter, and his other part-time job is mosquito abatement. So this is kind of why that I think I'm pleased to see a lot of shelters in the urban centers sort of adopting their rural shelters, that humane society is really good about that. Their numbers really don't make any difference statewide because their animal numbers are so small. So they get left out a lot of discussions. And then, if you can see on 4 of 7, we took in more animals statewide than last year, which is what everybody is seeing all around the country. And then we've been doing this data since 2013. So on the next page 5, you can see the trends lined up from the time. So when we first started doing it, like look at that statewide live outcome rate for cats was 41%, just shocking. So it's actually that in the next bar, so it starts to creep up, and we were making great progress. We peaked in 2020, and now we've been losing ground on live outcomes statewide ever since. And this is what you're hearing about happening around the country. And then the next slide is the euthanasia numbers by year, and you can see euthanasia numbers are going up as well, which is scary. And then the last picture on this handout is just how shelters are reporting their live outcomes. So adoption being the biggest ones, some transfers, some return to owners. And there's flaws with this data, like we don't count rescue groups, mostly because they won't respond to us and don't keep data. So if they live outcome an animal to a rescue group, they don't ever know really the outcome of that animal, and it disappears into the ether. And if there's transfers, it might be double counting animals, because it might be transferred out of one shelter as an outcome and then into another shelter. So that's double counting. So you just have to kind of take that with a grain of salt, but I think the trends are what they are. But then what I want to pass around is what we used to collect. That's those. It's the same,
He's right.
Is it right?
Oh,
Right.
yes. Probably one too.
All right, so I did pull really quickly, hopefully it's right, because I was doing it in a hurry. Our local data, starting on page 6. We've been collecting data since 1990. Starting with that first graph, you can see a very pleasant increase in live outcome rate for dogs and cats. Look where it started in 1994. Like, almost impossible to imagine that over 80% of cats were dying and over half of dogs. High intake numbers too. So the next one shows you the intake numbers. Altogether over 12,000 animals, and then most of those are not really live. Just a massive toll and carnage. And then you can see the data to, you know, this year, how much better we are in the euthanasia numbers. Now, when you're when you then look at like euthanasia numbers and then you're looking at live outcome rates, remember that some animals die that are not euthanized, so they're not gonna, you can't calculate live outcome rates just by looking at. But the next ones show it broken out for cats and dogs. Anyways, chugging away, I'm really pleased with where the county is now. I think both of these ladies relate what it should be. Remember, this is just the shelter, it's not community-wide, but that's where most of the information comes from. So we are really down there where we should be and really struggling now with the animals that need the most help. Luckily, we have catnip to really buffer.
Right.
We have cat dynamics in the state. We didn't have them doing last year, they did 8,000 surgeries and 900, 1,200 kitten shelter diversions. We are related to this, pushing nationally a concept of the cat superhighway, which is to manage cats in a, most of them get neutered or returned once the kittens get on their way to a home, but not through a shelter. And we are doing that by really trying to write up and spread catnip's kitten shelter diversion program. And I hired a veterinarian to come and just like listen in on all the phone calls and write everything down, so we can write this up in a toolkit for folks, but I would like it if you could tell everybody what kitten shelter division does.
Sure, so, a couple years ago, our executive director, Audrey, was bombarded with all these cases of community cat caregivers having custody of kittens amongst the cats they were caring for. At the time, Catnip did TNR, only TNR, and other low-cost services were not a great fit for someone who just wanted to find homes for the kittens. So they're giving the kittens away unaltered. They're giving them to great, well-meaning people
Right.
who don't get them fixed.
Right.
The kittens then grow up and they do the things that unaltered cats do, and they get kicked outside, right? Creating completely new groups of cats outside. So, the thought was kitten shelter diversion is basically Catnip, isn't an adoption facility and we don't, shelter cats and kittens. But we wanted to provide vetting, to get those animals fixed before people gave them away in the homes. And the requirements have, kind of changed a little over the years, but the basics are that, primarily they're coming from the location where they were found. We'll have some where it's, you know, I was driving by and I saw it on the sidewalk, or, I got this morning, a friend of mine, her husband is a manager at a construction site and they found a kitten there amongst all the equipment. So we do get some that's just kind of like a found kitten, but the target audience is the people who are already caring for the cats. They have to agree to foster and care for the kittens themselves. They can't surrender them to the shelter or one of the other rescue groups. And they're supposed to use their own resources to find them homes. Just like the shelter and rescues aren't supposed to help them with housing, then they are not supposed to help them with adopting out. They're supposed to be tapping into these social networks of people who just, you know.
They know where the cats.
Yeah, there, a lot of times these aren't people that are already going to those places. These are very opportunistic or just people who maybe even weren't in the market for a cat, and now they are. And they have to bring us the mom, and any other cats from the place where they were found. So it's a full circle model to get, you know, to end the cycle of reproduction for the entire group of cats that are living there. And that's also why it's so important that we're trying to get these kittens at the source. You know, it's wonderful to help kittens and very noble, but if we don't get the mom and we don't get all the other originating cats, we have kittens again.
Right.
So this program is like everything else at Catnip, it's donation based, so people pay what they can. The probably the biggest challenge we have is people don't feel very confident in finding homes at the end of it, and we get a lot of like, oh, I found a home for 3 of the 5. And so we do network with rescues and ask, hey, this person's really tried, because you don't want people to end up with 5 cats that they didn't intend for,
Right.
so. A lot of community partnership goes into it, to make it successful too. But yeah, last year we did about 1,200 kittens, the year before about 1,400, so those are kittens that are not going to the shelters, not going to the rescues. They have, it's taking that off their plate, and it's also that same number that are not going back outside.
Right.
So we're immediately removing them from the outdoor cat community as well.
And maybe we could do better in cross checking too, because I know like right now, and say it out loud, but maybe. Nope, not gonna say it out loud, because if I do, it'll like all go down the tubes and then I'll like regret that I ever said this. Okay, I'm knocking on wood. Okay, everybody hears me knocking on wood, but we've been really lucky this season. We don't have kittens. So, I mean, we have several, that's why I'm knocking hard. That's why I'm knocking hard. We don't have many. I mean, we have quite a few in foster, like bottle babies and things like that, but I'm saying as soon as they're hitting the floor, they're flying out. So they're going quickly, and there's been actually more people asking for kittens than we usually see. That's why I was afraid to say that.
It's the diversion
Right,
aspect of it. 'Cause,
right.
like, I got that text at 8 o'clock this morning asking, where do I take this kid?
Oh, gotcha,
And I
gotcha.
said, the shelter is
Right,
the place,
right.
but
You could do
we
this.
can you do this?
Right.
And an hour and a half later, she's sending me a picture of someone cuddling it.
That's
and
cool,
says,
yeah.
Person says she'll take it.
We should be able to do more shout outs on social media that you guys do this, I think we should really be bragging more on. I really do. So like send me stuff and I'll brag, we'll brag.
And
Right
stories,
there,
stories are great, data is
Yeah.
fantastic, but Republic stories are.
Right,
so
that's what I'm saying,
pictures of
share.
Circling a cat.
Yeah, like you should share that with us and we can share it too, and then we get more, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that would be super cool to highlight partnerships like that, you know? And same with you guys have diverted some dogs from us every now and then, like we should be sharing that on ours that, that, hey, because you took this, that gave us a spotted A card, you know what I'm saying? I think we should.
Yeah, cause not everyone can
Right,
house,
right.
and we tell people, that's okay, then this is your.
Then this is your.
This is your, like she's saying, the super highway,
Right.
that's your exit,
Right,
but
right,
if you can, this is your
Yes.
exit.
gotcha.
Where are we at?
Adoption events. But before, this is kind of it's kind of a part
Continuation.
adoption event, well, it's kind of it's not an adoption event, but it goes under events, how about that? Okay, so on June 1st, Dr. Levy and I just walked the lot. On June 1st, from 9 to noon, we are going to hold a public vaccine and microchip clinic to kick off hurricane season and get more pets vaccinated, microchipped, and we're doing it in conjunction with the team at UF, the shelter vet team, and our Office of Emergency Management. And so our Office of Emergency Management is gonna be out there with giveaways. It's gonna be it's gonna be a hybrid drive-through clinic. It'll be at Depot Park in the overflow lot of Depot Park. And so the old RTS bus building that's in that parking lot, if any of you know, that's gonna be like where our little clinic is, where we're gonna unload the dogs from the cars and give them their shots inside, microchip them, and then return them to the owners. So we'll have 2 lanes of traffic. We do have traffic people helping the sheriffs. Thank you. We'll be helping, and so their traffic patrol division, and we're excited. So I have asked for a grant for 500 vaccines from Petco Love. I asked for another grant from our microchip company. They're sending us 100, but I asked for 500. So I did purchase the other 2,400 out of donations. But I think it'll be exciting and see, not sure what kind of, traction we're gonna get. I had to get a permit through the state of Florida.
It
Yes.
will be insane.
Okay.
It will be.
I was trying
to remember, you guys
used to do this.
We did one.
Really?
We did, how many did we get? I think we did After the first one, I was like, I'm out, I can't.
Oh, no.
Right, so we learned a lot. It worked really well. We helped a bazillion people. But it was, the line was so long and people were coming from all over the place. And then at some point we had to cut off the line.
Right.
Because we had to go home,
Right,
you know, before dark.
right.
And so that was where I really struggled. I was like, I'm sorry, guys, I have to say no, I have to cut you off. And then another lady would come up and she had like a bunch of animals, just like, I'm like, I'm sorry, I just turned that person away. I certainly can't let you, you know,
Right.
like, so that was really hard for me, but it was very successful.
Good. So we are doing 9 to noon and only while supplies last.
Yeah,
So, it's a hard stop at noon, and I'm doing that for 2 reasons. One, we are getting hotter. And I don't want animals sitting in cars with no AC
Yeah.
possibly. The second thing is, right, and then the second thing is that, I just know, and we used to do public clinics every month where I was from. And so, and they were always well attended to, same thing. But you just have to be firm in stopping when it no means no, and you're done.
I know,
Yeah,
I just
but
felt really bad.
I know you do,
Yeah,
I know,
you still feel
I know,
bad.
you still feel bad, I don't, sorry, just because we having done so many, I mean, but you're right, if you think it's really gonna be that busy though.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
If it's free,
If it's free,
Okay.
people will come. And
I am
you
not
should
doing
make
free
it-
licensing,
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
I am not doing free licensing, and I thought about it at first, we
Do
went
they
really
have
back
to
and
be
forth.
From Alachua County?
Yes, they do,
Okay,
Alachua County residents only.
okay.
And I went back and forth on it because the amount of work it takes to do licensing on scene and getting a special cell tower out there to do the Wi-Fi and all that, I thought,
Yeah.
and then this $25, you know, when we're charging other people 25, I thought, no, I'm gonna split the line with that, we'll just send them a licensing bill later, we'll let them know. But at least they got free vaccines and at least they got a free microchip, I mean, they got enough free stuff, we're also giving them some hurricane supplies. So I mean, to me, the fact that they're getting all this free and then we're just asking them to pay $25 for a license, I feel okay with.
Are you asking them at that moment?
Nope, no payments, no, I don't wanna see a cash box, money, credit card, nothing. Literally just fill out your forms and go,
So
we'll
we did
check you
one
later.
in Stark, I think, or somewhere out there, and that's, we had a lot of rural county people coming.
Gotcha.
So it probably won't be quite, but there is still a lot of rural area in Alachua County.
Right.
that, you know, people don't have access to come to the vet.
Right.
Often, so it'll be busy.
Okay,
And you
What we
need to
could
be
do-
extremely careful with people that don't think about the heat.
oh, I
You
know,
have to have
I know.
supplements and
yeah,
you guys.
we're gonna probably do baby pools under some tents
Okay.
for people to cool down their pets.
You know those tickets you get when you're going to the deli, those numbers you pull?
Uh-huh.
Maybe we can have the traffic people pull those so we know when we're getting close to them. So that way we turn people away, like they don't find out they've been turned away half hour later.
Oh.
You know, like if you got $2 in your car, you get 2 tickets and then that kind of counts as we go. what
Oh,
our
yeah.
capacity is.
Yes, you definitely need to do that sometimes.
Good idea.
You don't want people sitting there for 3 hours and be like, oh, sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
hot.
literally 500 is what we got.
It's hot and.
Yeah, you, 500, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, yeah. Okay,
Thanks for that.
so that was
I have
mine.
other tips too, Santa Marlene.
Yeah, yes,
Yes,
I
please.
probably have, yeah, I'll just email you. I'll think about it.
Okay.
There was definitely some things like we didn't think about the ticket thing or some sort of check-in system, so, and people were waiting an hour before we got there.
Yeah,
we've
we've had experience.
The first person there, and I was like,
Running the gauntlet.
street list, sure, right, so yeah.
Okay.
We move into the Jack's Mega and
Sarah, Keely, you're up.
Yay. So we have 2 large summer events coming up. The end of June, June 28th and 29th, we're going to be in Jacksonville for the Jack's Mega event. It's an event that used to happen on an annual basis and has not happened since COVID, but they're finally bringing it back. It's multiple organizations from the state of Florida, primarily North Corner, going to be meeting, doing free adoptions. In the past, we would do anywhere between 40 and 60 dog adoptions in a single weekend, so hopefully we can do at least 20 to 30 of them. We're very excited about it.
And then after that, we have Summer Lovin' coming up in August. It's also an annual event. We partner with UF4. In the past, we've done upwards of 100 adoptions. So the Jack's Mega is just going to be dogs, but Summer Lovin' is for all of our animals, both dogs and cats.
It's definitely not worth taking cats to Jacksonville.
Absolutely not, no. Don't have it.
What's the date in August?
I believe the tentative date is August 12th or August 10th. I believe it's the
Thank you
second
to the
weekend.
Wagmore Foundation for always sponsoring that one.
Yes. Yes, and that event is held at our facility with UF and our staff and volunteers.
Good. All right, so that brings us to an agenda item that we added at the very beginning. Sarah, are you able to read that motion back to us
Sure.
so that we're on track? We do it right?
The motion was for the committee's response to public comment for future meetings and how to respond.
Okay, perfect. So my thoughts first, I've been thinking about this since the day after our last meeting. And number one, I think it needs to be a committee only discussion. You know, perhaps trying to answer some of the questions that this committee can answer that were brought up in public comment. But, you know, we can't open the floor back up for further public discussion. I mean, to reiterate, everybody's here volunteering their time. And to be quite honest, we could sit here till 5 or 6 o'clock. You know, if we don't try to stay on track with things. But my thoughts is in an effort to, you know, as part of our responsibilities and duties, in an effort to have a better engagement with the community. You know, my thoughts were that might be the best way that we can accomplish that in an orderly fashion. Like I said, sticking with answering questions that as a committee that we can really handle. I mean, if it's not within our deal, I mean, we need to kick that down the road. But anyway, those were my thoughts. You know, like I said, adding something permanently to the agenda going forward. So please, like, open it up for discussion.
Like a section.
Like a
Just
section
towards the end of
public
it.
comment on
Yep.
committee response.
Well, I was thinking more at the end where we are now, because some of those questions that came at the beginning may have already been addressed
Through
by staff.
Right.
You know, during the meeting, they may have been something that was already on the agenda, and something that got updated. So it may be something that, you know, we're making a note of questions that are brought up. And then if those questions get answered automatically, you know, we're done with that. So something unanswered that's within our realm that, you know, maybe we can openly discuss and move on. So I'm not sure what that should look like if, you know, please, you know, discussion on it.
So the model would be the Board of County Commission, and they do have that on their agenda. They have public response to public comment. And how you, and the way that you've done public comment today is exactly the way the Board of County Commission does it as well, you know, at the beginning. And then we rarely have votes here that are outside of just the business of running a meeting. But those, of course, haven't had public comment. But like approving the agenda and all that, I mean, it's at the discretion of the chair, but that's not a time to pick. But other votes, like for example, when we talked about the fair, that was a decision by the board that it had a discretion of the board or chair to open up to, you know, right that. But and then again, I have a lot of opinions, and I think the response to public comment probably is not time to share my opinions, but should be fact-based. You know, for example, no, this board has not taken a vote on the lease agreement. That is a fact. And so that's the response to that. And then I would refer to Julie more, say, do you have the answer to this? Or could we refer it to Board of County Commission or the manager and get a response at our next meeting or by email. It probably, very, because I personally can jump in the back and forth with arguments very easily and I don't.
Yeah, and yeah, and
And what-
this is not an open debate.
Right.
This is not an open debate. It's, can we answer that question?
Right.
Is that question within, and
Within our scope as well.
yes, and questions directed to staff. Staff is here at this,
Right.
at this meeting. But this is the committee's meeting, not staff's meeting. So, staff answering questions that should be directed to staff may be more of a county commission type setting, where, those decisions, can be made or more appropriate. So,
Or we can personally ask, or you can, at your discretion.
yeah, at your
Staff can
discretion, you can
respond.
answer that. Absolutely. I think that's totally appropriate.
And that was, that did come up, and I don't remember by who, at the point, my comment wasn't that this committee had ever voted to approve a lease, it was, they are aware of the
Hold
site,
on,
right?
hold on, Julie.
Well,
Well, I'm gonna cut you off right there, because right now, this discussion is, do we want to add something like this to the agenda
Oh,
for future meetings? And if we do adopt something like that, then we can certainly add that and discuss answering some of those questions after that, if we as a committee choose to adopt something like that. First, we need to establish what that should look like.
I
So.
really think that we don't have a whole lot to say. I mean, like, we are here to talk about like what we see in the community and, like what our roles are as, animal people too, but we don't have a lot of, like, we don't have any say of what happens or where things are going. So like the public comments that come here should really be fairly generic. I mean, like, they should be things, I don't even know what we could answer, to be honest with you. Like, what could we answer?
And we may not be able to answer those things, but I think trying to answer what we can, if there's a question that we can,
I mean,
there's something specific to us, then I think that fulfills our engagement.
yeah, I think we keep it the way the county does it. It wouldn't want to vote, but.
Either codifying that on the agenda or not is what you're asking about.
Yep,
I don't have an opinion either way. I would probably prefer it not be a part of the agenda and be at discretion of the chair. Just because, it might be interpreted by the public as we have to respond to their comments. And but either way, our response would be, that's not our purview. Here's the facts that but
Yeah, but we're not-
direct your comments to the
right,
Board of
but-
County Commission.
but without having it there, then where does it fit in the agenda as far as saying, hey, we don't have, that's not within what we're here to do. So without it there, then it forces any one of us to add that at the, make a motion to add that to the agenda if we perceive, when we get to public comment, that there's gonna be public comment that we need to respond to. So there may not be public comment, or there may not be something that needs to be responded to, but if it is in the agenda, then we certainly have a place for that, and we have an established, because last meeting for me, it was kind of a mess, because we didn't have something really established for us. So, it's up to us as a group to decide. Those are kind of my pros and cons as to, why, I've even brought it up. So.
I think it would be, I'm okay, I kind of could go either way,
Yeah.
but I think having it on there and just saying, sure, if there are public comments that we want to respond to, we can respond, and it will be in this time, like just setting a time frame, and we can choose not to respond. But like, I think some questions that might be able to be answered, like you said, or whoever it was, like, Julie might be able to draw, like, the question about, surgeries conducted for educational purposes, like, that's an easy one, like, like we can check that off the, check off, that's a normal thing. And it doesn't have to like keep being perpetuated, because we can answer it But
So is there any more discussion?
Maybe we should come up with also a public comment policy with a statement on the agenda. Public comments at the beginning of the meeting. But,
maybe addressed during this time or something.
yeah, but also just in general, public comment policy, and we don't have to decide that today. There might be a model already that the county commission uses.
Would I be able to, actually Corbin Hanson from our attorney's office is on Zoom with us today. He's filling in for Diana Johnson, who's usually here. Corbin, you have that statement somewhere in your office, I believe. Is that correct? On public comment, the way the BOCC has it worded on the agenda?
Yeah, we do have the language that the BOCC uses as part of their rules. We use it for a lot of our other boards as well, planning commission and whatnot. This isn't a board that would be dealing with quasi judicial items, so we wouldn't have to do the quasi judicial statement, but we do have public comment language.
Okay, can you send that to me? Just email it to me?
Okay.
Fantastic.
And then even if it's not printed on the agenda itself, the chair reading it out at the start with
Right.
get everyone on the same page. When it's in the room.
Thank you.
Okay, so what does that look like? A motion at the beginning of every meeting as far as addressing the agenda, or, I mean, is it gonna be an agenda item?
I think it should be an agenda item, just like the county commission, people are used to that, and it seems to work. And it gives us flexibility. If we had to, because they speak first and then, or you do the agenda first and then they speak, so it's out of order anyway, like if they. Then you would have to do another agenda revision after the public comment, if there was something we wanted to respond to, and it just sets up expectations, so that. And then when it gets down to that, you can say, does anybody want to respond to anything, and they'll say yes or no, and it's fine with it. That'd be more efficient than. Going through a whole motion time to them.
Yeah.
And it should be kind of polite, yeah, something.
I would agree, and like I said, our main thing is engagement. And I personally think that fulfills that. So where do we feel like it's appropriate to have that?
And the thing is, you put it in the meeting, percent will hear the whole time. Like you said, some of the questions might be answered during this.
Yeah.
So, it's. Whether it's pros and cons for both.
And it's gonna be recorded, so like if they do have to leave, they can always go back and watch.
And review it and bring it up the next meeting.
So would at the end of new business be an appropriate place for response to public comment? So is there a motion?
I will make a motion to replicate the Board of County Commissioners policy on public speaking, public comment. And place that time for response at the end.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign?
To be clear, we're just responding, but we're not starting a discussion. It's not back and
This is
forth.
not an open discussion. This is committee response. Committee response specifically only. Okay, so that being said, do we want to address some of the public comments that we heard today? Do we want to discuss the public comments that we heard today?
I don't
Right.
think there are any factual.
Any of the ones that we can.
I don't think there are any factual clarifications left. And everything else, should be addressed with county commission as far as, I don't have anything. I wrote down notes from the public comment and I don't see anything.
I wrote down some notes and I did have a few questions. I don't know that we can specifically answer things.
Okay.
Well, number one, it's Miss Kathleen. Miss Kathleen provided us with a couple of handouts today, and plus we got the handouts from Dr. Levy. I was wondering if, and I didn't realize who Corbin was on our Zoom. I didn't know if it was appropriate if you know, if these documents, these handouts that were provided, if they could possibly be reviewed by, I don't know, if whoever's appropriate, whether it be staff attorney or whatnot, and then be scanned in and included as attachments in our minutes
I
as.
think they're required to be part of the public record.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
So that's a done deal, no issue.
Including, Dr. Halby's.
Yeah,
I
all of this will be attached.
Perfect, perfect.
PDF of what I passed out today.
Great.
So what I sent you.
Sarah.
Oh, Sarah.
Okay, perfect. So one of the questions that Miss Kathleen, raised is, do we as a committee endorse the lease agreement with UF? I'm not sure that that's within our, I think everyone here agrees that we need a new shelter. And a new shelter is what is in the best interest of, the animal welfare and our, what we're here to do. I don't know if needs to be any discussion on that. But, I'm not sure that, the location and whatever the county works out as far as where things are gonna be. I don't know that that's up to us as much as absolutely we're on board for a new shelter.
And we're individuals as well, so we can express our individual
Yeah.
opinions to county commissioners. But as a board, I don't think that, we haven't been asked. And, we haven't felt compelled to, have to take a vote on that.
And then there was some concern brought about, investigations, being conducted by ACAR. I don't know if that's something that Director Johnson wants to respond to.
Sure, so our officers all go through investigations training, they go to workshops. They go through many trainings each year, to better enhance their capabilities of how they handle calls and things like that, so. Additionally, with our new person coming on, I know there will be additional emphasis placed in training. On some techniques, tips and tricks, but when we take all of these cases, it only gets prosecuted if we have done a full investigation. So in the one case of hoarding, that was, that took place last year, that was because we had done the full investigation and given it to the proper authorities to be able to take it and get that prosecuted. We couldn't do that, we can't get things like warrants and things like that. Deputy Kuhn can probably attest to this. It is not easy necessarily to get a warrant. And you have to have a pretty compelling case in writing before that decision is made. So there is a lot that has to go into investigations. Some of it is not perfect because we don't have perfect answers, we don't have perfect witnesses, we don't have perfect evidence. And so unfortunately, some of these can take a very lengthy amount of time before we can even do anything with it. But investigations is everyone here knows is like pretty top of mind for me. So I don't, I am pretty strict about making sure that cases get brought to full justice.
And
So the officers do.
And you've made hires, right? New officers expanded that. Right, there are more officers in the works, for example, 5 years ago.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah,
So we've expanded the team and our stats do show it. We are writing a lot more citations, even in the first 4 months of this year over last year. So we are filing a lot more cases. And so we have to look at the precedence of which case is more priority over the other case, unfortunately, as they come in. So but that does happen. I mean, we are getting quite a few cruelty cases. And especially this time of year, we're gonna get a lot of calls for dogs in cars, cats in cars. And it happens every year, whether we like it or not. And we have to go investigate every single one of those individually. So it is a lengthy process.
May I comment?
No, I'm afraid not.
I just need to understand.
And that may be something that's, if private discussions happens with, after this meeting with Director Johnson specifically, that would certainly be allowed. We need to figure out when our next meeting is gonna be. I don't know, were we doing these on the second Wednesday or first Wednesday?
Wednesday.
So I've got the second Wednesday kind of in line with things will be August 14th.
Very busy, isn't that? Did we
Fast.
say that's summer 11?
It's after.
Oh, it's after.
It is the first day of school for Alachua.
Oh,
Early.
You're starting right in on a Wednesday?
Well, at least for
That's the
my, at
first
least
week.
first week, yeah, at least
Yep.
for my son, it starts that day.
But I mean, we got school going on now. Does anybody
Yeah.
see the 14th as the problem, or do we
No,
need to
I
move?
might be fine with that.
Or would it be better to move it up a week to August the 7th, or is the?
that'd be
14th?
worse, 'cause that's Atlantic.
Yeah.
Okay,
That'd be worse.
okay,
No.
okay, that'd be worse,
Yeah.
okay.
14th is fine with me.
so-
That's all I have to look.
So then if,
Would it give ACAR staff enough time to handle summer 11 and preparation for this?
I think so.
Okay, then I'm okay with the 14th.
Sarah, will you check, make sure the room is available and take care of all the logistics?
Absolutely.
So our next meeting will be October 14th, same, but I think the
August.
August 14th, thank
We
you.
want to go to October?
I think for now, our venue here is still good. We've just got the addition of the Zoom capability and the recording, so, thank you, staff, for making that.
And that was a request from us, right?
Yes.
That was, I think that was public, and that had to do from public, there was a direct response from, public comments on the last meeting, so wonderful, on that moving forward.
So we do want to let people know, even that are here, that if you want to join via Zoom, you are able to do that as well. On the Zoom link.
And how would they do that? Through the website? They'd be able to access?
Through the meetings list, yes, on meetings list, to see the meetings, you can access the link right there and go in.
Perfect. Anything else? Think we kind of had anything, so is there a motion to,
Sure.
is there a second? It's a second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Corbin, very much.
No problem.
And